Hello and welcome to Candidate Question Time. I'm Cameron, the current chair of the Student Parliament, and I'll be your host for the next hour and a half as we shine a spotlight on this year's President and Vice President candidates and give them a little bit of a grilling along the way. So all the candidates you'll meet tonight are running for full-time paid positions in the Student Union. If they're elected, they'll work hard to represent you and make a positive change on campus and beyond. You might not realise it, but your officers are often the only students in a room full of university staff and will be asked, what do students think about this on a daily basis? It's really important for you to use your vote and choose the candidates you think have the best ideas and would do the best job. If you don't think any of the candidates running are in the right positions, you can also vote to reopen nominations, also known as RON. So, how's it going to work tonight? Tonight, the candidates will be given a brief chance to introduce themselves. Then they'll have 5 questions to answer that have been submitted anonymously by students. We had a heap of questions submitted this year, so if you sent one in and it hasn't been asked, don't worry, because I'm sure the candidates will be more than happy to give you their answers outside of this session, be that via email or in person. So candidates will be asked these questions and we'll have a minute and a half to answer each question, and then a quick chance to say a final few words. Once candidate question time is over, the exciting stuff happens and the voting will open. That's at 7 p.m. So we'll see if I can keep everybody to time today, a bit unlike last year. And without further ado, we'll get straight into it. So our first position that we're going to be looking at is the Vice President Education. As the name suggests, the person elected into this role will be responsible for everything related to undergraduate academic issues. Our winning candidate will be in lots of university meetings, fighting to make your educational experience better. And they'll work closely with our amazing academic reps to understand the issues that you're facing. This year, we have one candidate running for the Vice President Education role, Molly, who joins us tonight, and reopen nominations, also referred to as RON. So let's dive straight in. So Molly, I think you'll be loading up on the screen just now. It's good to see you here. And you'll have a minute to introduce yourself just to start everything off to our wonderful audience at home. And then we'll move on to some of the tougher questions in which you'll have a minute and a half to answer. And after that, you'll have 30 seconds to say your final few words. So I'll give you a warning when there's 10 seconds left by raising my hands, and watch out because you will be muted as soon as your time is up. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So Molly, you'll have a minute to introduce yourself and you can start whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you, Cameron. So hi everyone, I'm Molly. I'm currently a 4th year BSc Geography student, and I'm also the current Aegis School MP. And through this role, I've really enjoyed volunteering in the union over the last year, and I've loved already having the opportunity to represent students. I've worked closely with the current VPE, Hannah, so I've got an idea of what the role entails already, but I really look forward to having the chance to make it my own over the next year and to help people as much as I possibly can.
Thank you very much. So that's great. We all know who you are now, and without further ado, we'll dive straight into the questions for this evening. So our first question submitted by the students is as follows. What's the biggest issue affecting Heriot-WattSU's educational experience at the moment? So I'll say that again. What's the biggest issue affecting Heriot-WattSU's educational experience at the moment? So you've got time to collect your thoughts if you need it, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking. You'll have a minute and a half, and I'll give you a warning when there's 10 seconds left. So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Perfect, thank you. So I actually think I'm quite lucky in that, as I've mentioned, I did the school MP role because I've been able to already hear from quite a lot of students about any issues that they've been facing. And one thing that has cropped up almost every single meeting that I've had is the move from online to in-person teaching, particularly for those students in 1st and 2nd year who have never had to face the way that old uni used to be pre-pandemic. So I think that that would probably be one of the main issues that I think people would face, particularly this semester and into the future, as I know that exams are moving back to in-person, and this is something that people haven't had to do for many years, some people not at all within university. So that's why this is one of my main points on my manifesto, because I feel really strongly that students should be listened to and that the uni should do as much as they humanly can to make changes so that students feel comfortable. Because as much as we are coming out of the pandemic, I think that there are still a lot of issues seen and that people still aren't comfortable being in person. So which is why one of the main things I wanted to do was open a portal so that students could have their voice heard.
Thank you very much. So moving on to our second question, it goes as follows. How will you make sure students get the best out of their learning experience in the wake of the pandemic? So say that again. How will you make sure students get the best out of their learning experience in the wake of the pandemic? So same as before, I'll start at the time when you start speaking. You've got time to collect your thoughts and take the floor whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So I think that I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I feel that I've listed what I think could help students make the most out of their experience in my manifesto. So through improving feedback, particularly making blended learning work for you and having your voices heard. So I think that all of this is really important. And one way that I would want to do this is by, like I mentioned before, having like an open portal so that you could anonymously submit questions. And if people do feel comfortable being in person, I am always up for a wee cup of tea and a wee chat, even if it's just a rant. So I feel like the most that I can do is just be there as much as possible for every student, no matter what their concern is.
Thank you very much. So our third question is, what is your position on the university and college union staff strikes? I'll repeat that. What is your position on the current university and college union staff strikes? Feel free to collect your thoughts, same as before. I'll start the time when you start speaking.
Perfect, thank you. So I think that the strikes are really important. As much as students feel the need to be heard, staff also feel the need to be heard. And at the end of the day, our learning experience comes from these staff. And if they don't feel happy, they don't feel supported, they don't feel comfortable in their job, that then ultimately does affect us. I think it does come at a pivotal point in the semester and it will affect students. And that's something that can't be forgotten throughout the strikes. But they do it at this point so that the university is more likely to take on board their concerns and act on these issues that they found. So I feel like they are important, but the impact that it has on students can't be forgotten either.
Thank you very much. So moving on to our fourth question, we're really getting through this right now. So our fourth question is as follows. What will you do to support and empower the academic representatives? So I'll repeat that. What will you do to support and empower the academic representatives? I'll start the time as you start speaking, same as before.
Thank you. So again, this comes back to one of my manifesto points in making your voices heard as much as possible. And I know that the academic representative structure is changing over the next year and that it's being altered so that your voices can be heard as much as humanly possible. So a couple of things that I plan on doing, as I've previously mentioned, is the anonymous portal so that students can voice their concerns, whether they are school officers, class reps, or just every student. And I would also offer drop-in sessions for any student, as well as the regular VP meetings that they have with school officers and the school MPs, so that if students did feel something that really passionately, they could come forward and talk no matter their position.
Thank you very much. And now our fifth and final question goes as follows. Why should students vote for you instead of reopening nominations? This is a fairly simple one, but why should students vote for you instead of reopening nominations?
Thank you. So I feel like I'm quite an open person and I've always been told I have a friendly face and that I'm easy to talk to, so much so that I've actually become the agony aunt for issues at my work. So I already know that people feel comfortable talking to me. And I feel like that's something that's really important in this role, is students feeling like they can come and speak and that they're not going to be put down or just ignored. And I think that's really important. And as I mentioned before as well, I've already got experience in this role through, or not experience in this role, but experience through the union, with school MP, and I've worked closely with Hannah, so I kind of know roughly where I'm coming from, and I would really enjoy the opportunity to make this role my own as well and get the most out of it as I humanly possibly can. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So that's all of our questions for your candidates for Vice President Education. And finally, what we're going to have is a little 30-second summary. So Molly, if you've got 30 seconds to summarize why people at home should vote for you. A little similar to the last question, but this is where you can really sell it. So 30 seconds to summarize your running.
Perfect, thank you. So as I said, I feel like people should vote for me because I've already got past experience representing students, and I know roughly what the role does, and that you can make anything you possibly can out of it. And I really enjoy taking something and making it as my own as much as I can. And I feel like I'm a super approachable person, so I'm always going to be there for students, even if you just want a wee rant over a cup of tea, because I'm always up for that. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you very much for that, Molly. So you can go and pop your feet up now and listen into the rest of the candidates. That's the pressure off. And I think one of the key takeaways from that bit there is the importance of the manifestos within this election period. And you can find them all on the university website, so heriot-WattUnion.com. So our next section today is our Vice President Wellbeing. So shortly we'll be joined by our Vice President Wellbeing candidates, and whoever wins will work to improve the wellbeing of all students through campaigning, lobbying the university, and raising awareness around key issues. The Vice President Wellbeing is also the first point of contact for all equality and diversity issues. So this year we have two candidates for Vice President Wellbeing, so running for your vote. So we have Charlie and Georgia, who joined us on the right-hand side, I think it is, of the screen in just a sec. Well, right now, actually. So welcome up to the candidates, and you know the drill. Same as before, you'll have 1 minute to introduce yourselves, and then we'll fire into the questions. So first up for the introductions, we have Charlie. So if you can take the floor, I'll start the timer, and you have 1 minute to introduce yourself. I'll raise my hands to let you know there's 10 seconds left, and whenever you're ready, you can start speaking.
Okay, fab. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm running for the Vice President Wellbeing role. I'm running for this position because I think wellbeing is just such an integral part of every student's academic success. It builds the foundation of everything we do at university, and it's something that I really want to be a part of. In the coming academic year, I think the big thing the university will be focusing on is the return from virtual learning. And we've just survived 2 years of a pandemic, and it's been really rough. And I think everybody's well-being has suffered. And as Vice President Wellbeing, I'd be working really hard to make sure that the university acknowledges just how hard it's been for every student, and every student can access the support that they need. We have some fantastic resources available with the Advice Hub. You know, your mental health, your financial health, your sexual health. I just want every student to have access. That's my big thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we'll move on to Georgia. So Georgia, same as before, you'll have a minute, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
Hi, so I'm Georgia, and I'm really excited to be running for Vice President Wellbeing. I'm in my final year of studying biological sciences, and I have been a class representative, and also I founded and I'm the president of the Sleep Society here at Heriot-Watt. I'm just really passionate about all things health and well-being, which is partly why I am studying biological sciences, so kind of more that aspect on things. But also along the same lines as what Charlie mentioned, well-being is just a really integral part of your university life. If you haven't got that, you can't really enjoy the other aspects of university. You know, it's so pivotal, it has to be a priority. And the reason that I want to run for Vice President Wellbeing is because I believe that I can help to improve well-being of all students through safety, in better sleep, and also better access to sport and exercise.
Thank you very much. So it's great we've finally got to know you and your candidates running for this Vice President Wellbeing position. So we'll jump straight into the questions. So our first question today, you will see it pop up in the chat, is what is the biggest wellbeing issue facing students, and what would you do to tackle it? So I'll repeat that. What is the biggest wellbeing issue facing students, and what would you do to tackle it? So Georgia, we're going to come to you first on this one. So take the floor whenever you're ready. You can have time to collect your thoughts, and there's a minute and a half on the clock. I'll let you know when there's 10 seconds left.
So thank you. So I think that it almost might seem like an obvious thing to say, but mental health, well-being isn't just mental health. Obviously, there are many more components of it. But I think that students' mental well-being has been so impacted the last few years, not just by the pandemic, but the fact that we're living through so many huge historical events right now. And I think it's really important that the university acknowledge that that is a really difficult thing to be juggling alongside all your own personal problems, as well as university, your work, all of these things all at once. And what I would do to tackle it is I've used the wellbeing services a lot myself, even just within the last few weeks. And I think raising awareness of how to access and how to deal with issues when they arise, particularly issues of discrimination, is going to be a huge of huge importance. So one of my main aims is to make the discrimination policy that Heriot-Watt do have, to make it more accessible and make it easier for students to understand how it is that issues of discrimination should be dealt with. So when you don't feel safe and included on campus, what should be done about it, and what's the best way to deal with it?
Thank you. And now we're going to come to Charlie for the same question. What's the biggest wellbeing issue facing students, and what would you do to tackle it? So Charlie, same as before, take the floor whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. I think I agree with Georgia. Mental health is the biggest challenge facing students. It's really hard work being a student, and it's especially hard work being a student in the middle of a pandemic. And I think I've struggled with my mental health. It's really hard. I've had to work really hard to access the support that I need. I feel like I've put a lot of work and effort into finding those resources, and I would just really like to make it easier. I would like it to be something you can have at your fingertips as soon as you need it. And I would work to achieve that by increasing the funding to the Advice Hub so they've got more capability to provide the support that they need. Improve signposting, it streamline all of our websites so it's much easier to access these resources, and especially find resources if you're not comfortable talking to somebody at university. Make sure there's always somewhere you can go and you know how to ask for help, and that's not a big process, and that's not a huge hurdle that you have to overcome. And that should be the same for every student. There shouldn't be any kind of barriers. And so as Vice President Wellbeing, I'd work really hard with liberation groups and various different individuals just to kind of understand the problems that are facing people that I might not understand because I've not experienced them myself, and just see what is bothering students the most and what I can do to help.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of interesting points raised there. So our second question for today, I'll jump straight into it, goes as follows. Equality and diversity are a large part of the VP Wellbeing's job. How would you work with and support the liberation societies? So I'll repeat that. Equality and diversity are a large part of the VP Wellbeing's job. How would you work and support liberation societies? So Charlie, we're going to come to you first on this one. So same as before, I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
Great, thank you. I think one of my attributes that makes me really good for the position is my ability to know when to shut up and listen and when it's my turn to talk. And I think with diversity and inclusion, the biggest thing that I can do is sit back and listen and really work to understand what the problems are and what's facing students. And I can work alongside groups to organise events. I've been in the What Women Society now for a few years, and I've helped them run panels, and I've very recently organised my own panel where 5 women came and spoke about their careers, and so I have a good understanding of how to kind of work in the background to get those things running and amplify other people's voices, especially in spaces where I don't understand the issues myself from personal experience. Sorry, complete brain fart. I think that's probably me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll come to you next, Georgia, and I'll just repeat the question. So equality and diversity are a large part of the VP Wellbeing's job. How would you work with and support Liberation Society? So Georgia, you'll have 1.5 minutes on the clock. Take the floor when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. So I'm personally in a very privileged position when it comes to equality and diversity, and because of the privileged position that I am in, it's important that I educate myself on issues by listening to understand people's problems. It is important that I amplify the voices of people who do not always have, who aren't on a level playing field as myself. So as I mentioned, a privileged position, it's very easy for me to have my voice heard, and I need to use that privilege and use that position that I'm in order to amplify other people's voices who aren't as privileged. But yeah, listening to understand is a huge key element here, because without that, I can't educate myself and I can't use my voice effectively for other people. But also, when you think about equality and diversity, I think about embracing differences and educating and really getting into I think embracing is the key word, but it's also important to have a really strong and clear framework in place when issues arise, so that when students don't feel safe and don't feel included, it is very clear how to deal with that. And that's something I really want to focus on, which I think could be something just as simple as discrimination policy being on a clear poster somewhere at university so people know what to do.
Thank you very much. So even more interesting points raised there. So now we're moving on to our third question. So how it goes as follows: how will you get students engaged and actively participating in the wellbeing group? So repeat that one more time. How will you get students engaged and actively participating in the wellbeing group? So Georgia, we're going to come to you first on this one. So you have 1.5 minutes, same as before. I'm sure you know the drill. So take the floor when you're ready.
Right, so this is a great question because I think the wellbeing group is such an excellent idea and it really just does need to be utilised to its full potential. And we can't force students to be like, you need to come along to this, it's so important. That's just not gonna cut it. Like, we need to ask students what it is that they want from a wellbeing group, what it is that they want to talk about, make it so that the topics that are discussed are really integral to what students care about. So I think the key thing is to have that conversation, that back and forth, so that they can really mold what the wellbeing group is for them, so that it is more tailored to the individual students, and then more people want to attend because it'll be something that they want to hear and they want to get involved in. And just advertising generally, just making sure people know that the wellbeing group is a thing, because that's going to be really key. It needs to be really well advertised, and it needs to be clear that it is a safe and inclusive space where people can speak about whatever it is that is on their mind, basically.
Thank you very much. So Charlie, we're going to come to you next. And the question, I'll just repeat it one more time. How will you get students engaged and actively participating in the wellbeing group? So same as before.
Thank you. So the union obviously has so many fantastic societies who have combated all the struggles of getting people involved and engaged over the last 2 years. And so I think a big thing I can do is work alongside these groups, see what's worked for them, what they've found has, got students interested and involved, and what works for students. And that works as well to help them encourage their students to come along and promote the wellbeing group, and really just kind of lay the foundation for it being an integral part of the union structure, that there is somewhere you can come and you can, have a tea and a chat and you can talk about what's bothering you. And it is centered around students. It's not something that I'm doing so that I can, say my piece and say what I think about wellbeing. It's actually kind of more of a space for me to sit back and open the floor and be like, okay, what's bothering you? And not just come with problems and complaints, but like, what's the solution? What can we do? How can we fix this? How can I help you? What do you need from me?
Thank you very much. So some good points raised from both sides and really well communicated. So question 4 for today we have Well, it goes as follows. We know that our postgraduate taught students and our postgraduate research students face wellbeing challenges and don't always know who to turn to. Other than signposting, what would you do to support these students? So I'll repeat the question. We know that our postgraduate taught and postgraduate research students face wellbeing challenges and don't always know who to turn to. So other than signposting, what would you do to support these students? So Charlie, will come to you first on this one. So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Okay, great, thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things I'd really like to do this year in my manifesto is increase the funding and the support that the Advice Hub has so that they can really kind of broaden the support that they offer, and that will extend out to postgraduates and make sure that the Advice Hub has the resources and the capabilities that they can support every student and focus especially on those students who might be left behind and the postgraduate issues. And another thing I can do, coming back to the wellbeing group, make sure that the postgraduates are aware that that's not just an undergraduate scheme, that's something they can come along to and they can air their grievances, and really just kind of ensure that there are really good open conversations about what's going on, what's bothering students, and making a good safe space that they can come and talk about what's going on and understanding as well the difference between the problems that are faced by postgraduate students and undergraduate students. It's completely different learning environment, and it's not one that I've personally been in. So again, it comes back to being able to listen and understand and be there really to just help shape things so that they fit every student.
Thank you very much. So George, we're going to come to you next on the same question. I think this one's quite a long one, so I'm not going to recite it. That's okay. So I'll give you the floor whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think it's important that postgraduate students know that they can take part in any of the kind of wellbeing services and sessions that are put on. But I think maybe to begin with, just to try and to help them understand that they can integrate within these sessions and they can come and raise any issues they may have. It might be a good idea to have something just as simple as maybe a Teams call dedicated just for postgrad students to air things they might want to talk about when it comes to well-being, to let us know exactly how it is that they would like to approach well-being issues, because again, this might be different from undergraduate students, just the way in which they want to talk about things. We might find that postgraduate students don't want to attend a wellbeing group for any number of reasons, and they might want to do it in a slightly different way. So I think firstly, just speaking to postgraduate students separately to find out what it is that they feel are the main issues and in what way they would like to approach people to talk about things, how comfortable are they, would they feel comfortable speaking to other postgraduate students about things, would a wellbeing group be something that they would be interested in? I think that'd be the first step, and then making it clear that if it is for them and they want to do it, that they can come to things like the wellbeing group and various other sessions held by the wellbeing services.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to our last question for your Vice President Wellbeing candidates, and that's going to be question 5, which goes as follows. Heriot-Watt is such a global university. How will you ensure international students at all levels of study feel welcome and integrated? So I'll repeat that one more time. Heriot-Watt is such a global university. How will you ensure international students at all levels of study feel welcome and integrated? So George, we're going to come to you first on this one. So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I think this goes back to when we spoke again about equality and diversity, is this idea of just embracing difference and embracing different cultures and pastimes and all this kind of thing. And I think Global Day was an absolutely excellent example of something that worked really, really well, and something that definitely needs to be continued and maybe just built upon as well, because I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think that from like a day-to-day perspective, things like, so we have on the union Instagram, we have Society Spotlight, which I think is was a great introduction. Things like putting the spotlight on the International Society, which they're really like ramping up recently and just like really getting into like doing events and things, and just giving societies such as the International Society that support, that advertisement, putting them in the spotlight. And yeah, just kind of, I think like with something like the International Society, making it clear that anyone can join it, and kind of you can really make like connections from all different backgrounds and cultures there, and just really enthusing students about that and getting people excited about meeting new people and embracing different cultures.
Thank you very much. And Charlotte, we're going to come to you. This is the last question, so take the floor whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So one of the initiatives that I would really like to help develop is already existing within the union, but I think it's been fantastic. I think it's had a lot of uptake, is the Mates initiative, which works to, it's almost like a dating app, kind of partners individuals on campus, they list their interests and it matches you with somebody who has similar interests. And you can note as well that you're interested in joining a society, and they will find someone in the society who will be your mate, who will come along to you, come along with you to all of the meetings and the events. And so you don't feel like you just come into a new country, you're in a new campus, and you're having to go and do things on your own. And I think initiatives like that help students feel like they're not alone and they've got other people that they can come and do things with, will really help just kind of get people settled and comfortable, in a new country. And again, working hand in hand with all of the international societies, just kind of listening to them, what's bothering them, what kind of transitions their students are struggling with, and really understanding what it is that our international students need from us. And that isn't always something that they should have to take all the initiative to tell us. Sometimes we can organise things like Global Day and provide it for them.
Thank you very much. So that summarises all the questions for the Vice President Wellbeing candidates. And what we're going to have now is a 30-second round off. So you're going to have 30 seconds to summarise, a reminder of viewers at home why they should vote for you. So Charlie, I'm going to come to you first for this one, and then I'm going to come to Georgia. So 30 seconds, and I'll let you know when there's 10 seconds remaining. So Charlie, time starts when you start speaking.
Fab, thank you. So vote me for Vice President Wellbeing. My big thing for next year is I want to create the conditions that will allow students to thrive. Wellbeing is in everything that we do. It's what makes the foundation of our academic life. And it's something that I'm so passionate about. I applied to this job because I knew it would be something that I care about. I'd come into work every day and be interested in what I was doing. Fab, thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Georgia, I'll come to you, 30 seconds. I'll start when you start speaking.
Thank you. So you should vote for me because I will listen to you and I will take action. I won't just listen and be like, yeah, maybe we can do something about that, and then just kind of put it on the back burner. I will listen to your concerns and I will think of a solution and I will take action. And then you will know what that action is because I will feed back to you. And I will prioritise safety, a safe and inclusive space for all, sleep, encouraging healthy sleep habits, and sport, making sport and exercise more accessible for all students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's brilliant. Thank you to our wonderful Vice President Wellbeing candidates. And don't forget to check out their manifestos at home. And once voting opens, you can head over to heriot-wattunion.com/vote. So that's hwunion.com/vote. Perfect. So we're going to move on to our next segment, and that is our Vice President Community Contenders. So the Vice President Community is there to make sure you get the most of your life, or the most from your life outside of lectures at university. They work to improve and grow our fantastic societies, and they're the lead on sustainability work, and they campaign and represent students on issues affecting your lives like housing and transport. So this year we have 2 candidates for the Vice President Community role. So with us tonight we have Scott and Will, who I'm sure will pop onto the screen onto the right-hand side. They can both give you a wave. And right, I suppose we'll get started without further ado. So you'll have 1 minute to tell our students at home a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll get straight into the questions. So Scott, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Same as before, I'll start the time when you start speaking, and I'll give you a little hand raise when you've got 10 seconds left. So start whenever you're ready.
Hi, thanks, Cameron. So yeah, I'm Scott. I'm running to be your next Vice President Community. Throughout my student experience, I've work behind the bar for the duration. I think this gives me a greater insight into both what the student union does successfully and what it can improve on. If elected, I am committed to rebuilding our communities post-COVID. I do this using my experiences working on union events such as Freshers and Live Fridays to provide a more diverse events portfolio. If elected, I'd lobby the Scottish Government with the help of NUS Scotland. I'd do this to provide a more tailored student approach to the upcoming cost of living crisis. The current government approach is to combat these rising domestic costs through a deduction in council tax. As you know, students don't pay council tax, so this wouldn't offer us any fiscal reprieve. There's many other points in my manifesto, but I think that's unacceptable and unhelpful to students.
Thank you very much. So next we're going to move on to Will. You'll have a minute, same rules as before. I'll start the time when you start speaking.
Hi, can you hear me okay? I've had to switch to my phone. Hi, yes, so I'm Will. I'm running to be your next Vice President's community. I've been part of the student union for pretty much my whole time in my 4 years, mainly as a society leader. So I was president of the Eco Society for over 2 years, and I just loved being part of the student union. I'm very passionate about the environment. It's been a huge part of my whole life. So to be able to take that to the next level as Vice President Community would be a dream come true. I've been working with the current Vice President Community, Shanna, so I know that it's such an important role, and I can't wait to take it head on.
Thank you very much. So it's been great to hear from the two of you, and we'll get straight into our questions without further ado. So our first question today goes as follows. What specifically would you do to build communities in our Heriot-Watt Scottish campuses? So I'll say that again. What specifically would you do to build communities in our Heriot-Watt Scottish campuses? So Will, I'll come to you first on this one. You can take time to collect your thoughts, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking. I should reiterate, you've got a minute and a half to answer these questions.
So I did cover this in my manifesto. One of my big plans to do is to create a easy way for society leaders especially to contact especially the Scottish campuses and also the abroad ones, because I know that as a society leader it was quite hard for me to contact Orkney and SBC, but I will work towards trying to provide connection, a stronger connection between all 3 campuses and all 5 campuses as well.
Thank you very much. And then Scott, we'll go to you next. A minute and a half, and I'll give you a warning when there's 10 seconds left.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm really glad this came up. This is my first point in my manifesto, rebuilding communities. My first point I touched briefly on my introduction was using my experience working at the union to provide a more diverse event portfolio on all 3 campuses. I know that's a bit wordy, but I think we've got a great opportunity with on-campus learning coming back to really push our events and diversify them even more. My second point was a postgrad specific space for postgrad. Their needs are quite separate from the rest of the university, and we shouldn't try and push our events that are more general towards the postgrad. So as postgrad specific space and events. And then third was push for further funding, specifically ring fencing academic funding, which could open up other funding for social societies and cultural societies. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much. So we'll now move straight on to our second question of the evening for your Vice President community candidate. So how would you get involved in union activities, especially in a post-COVID world? So let me repeat that. How would you get students involved in union activities, especially in a post-COVID world? Perfect. So we're going to come to Scott here. We're going to come to you first on this one. So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Yeah, again, touched on what I said before. I think we've got a great opportunity with on-campus learning coming back into the mix for next year. I think all students are going to be a lot more keen to get involved in all these events. Like the university with lectures recorded, I think we should keep one eye on pushing online events as well. I don't think everyone's going to be fully recovered and ready to do on-campus events. So we should have a mix of both. It's quite anxious coming back to normality and whatnot. Other activities is, again, diversifying the activities, so it's not just tailored to the one size fits all. We try and tailor our events to other out groups that don't fit into that, or are keen for that middle ground. And finally, I think activities that aren't just evolved around sort of Geordie's Bar, in-town activities, using our societies, pushing our societies outside of, say, Freshers Week and Societies Fair. Let's try and have other opportunities for people to join societies and support the events that the societies want to run.
Thank you very much. So, Will, we're going to come to you now about this. You can take the floor whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I think we're in a great opportunity time that things are opening up and lots of students can come back on campus. And so I plan to host a whole range of different events. So I'm planning to do a lot of events on Freshers Week. And then throughout the whole of the year, I'm planning to do stuff like Kayleys, and then Mahjong event, like playing Mahjong, and karaoke. And I also plan to run an open mic night, which I did in my first 2 years. So I plan to bring that back. And I've got loads of other ideas that are all by my manifesto. So yeah, I try to plan to take this opportunity that everything's opening up and encourage more students to come back on campus. I think they'll be more inclined to join events that they're in person rather than online.
Thank you very much. There's definitely some interesting ideas there. And this moves us on to our third question of the evening. So it goes as follows. What will you do as VPC to address discrimination faced by minority groups such as Black, Asian, minority and ethnic students, and students with protected characteristics such as disabled students? So I'll repeat that one more time. What will you do as VPC to address discrimination faced by minority groups such as Black, Asian, minority and ethnic students, and students with protected characteristics such as disabled students? So we're going to come to Will. We're going to come to you first on this one. Same rules as before.
So one of the things I plan to do, as I mentioned in the previous question actually, is have loads of events tailored towards diversity as well. So for example, I plan to do a global day again next year, like Shanna did this year, and Mahjong for some people who maybe the Asian community, but also I like to talk to students, engage students and get their feedback. And one of the ideas I have is to have maybe a feedback system near the Vice Hub where people can submit ideas which would come straight to me. So having like a safe space for people to reach out, and if anyone has any issues or wants to get more involved with diversity, they can reach out and I can work our way around to try and include as much diversity in the student union as well as the university as a whole.
Thank you very much. And Scott, we're going to come to you second on this. So take the floor whenever you're ready. Oh, is everything okay? Are we struggling to unmute? I'll leave this maybe a couple of minutes. I think we're still muted. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll leave it another maybe 10, 20 seconds and we can see. If not, we can move on to the next question for Will and then rewind, and you can maybe try and disconnect and reconnect or something along those lines. And I'll go another 10 seconds. I want to keep this as fair as possible, so I want to give Scott the chance to speak on this topic before we do move on. I think we do have a little bit of technical difficulties. What's an event without technical difficulties, eh? I think it really ties into moving back into on-campus stuff, where hopefully I'll be able to do this on campus next year and we won't have a problem with people being muted. But yes, I'll just maybe keep my small talk up, see how much I can do. There's a lot of stuff in the chat today. If you're supporting any of the candidates, do let us know in the chat. We're excited to find that out. It's always good to see support for everybody in the university, no matter who they are. And if you can't tell, I'm waffling for my life right now to try and progress this until the point that Scott gets back. I've had a message in the chat saying hold fire, so I'm going to have to push forward. Oh, we've got a nice message from Darren coming up on the screen. He says, good luck, everyone. That's your CEO of the University Student Union right there. A good person to add on LinkedIn if you're looking for any more connections. I'm sure I'll be happy to. So I'm not sure how much longer I can leave this. I'll keep going. I'm not sure what else we've got to talk about. I've not had really an interesting week. Nothing exciting going on outside. I mean, it was nice weather today. Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. Voting does open at 7. That's a very good point to raise. So what I'm going to attempt to do today is have this meeting continue up until 7 p.m. And that's when some of the fun stuff starts. That's where you can put your vote in and read through all the candidate manifestos, which are already out. So you can do that just now, maybe if you're waiting for us to get back kick-started. And where can you vote? It's a very important question, which is hwunion.com/vote. I'll repeat that again. I'll repeat that 5 times, in fact, if it gets us on time. So that's hwunion.com/vote. So last year, I've been throwing a little bit of support here. There's some statistics, which are really quite interesting. We had a 17% turnout last year, which obviously isn't ideal. And the point of the union is to truly reflect the ideas of the students and hopefully get the best student perspective. So if we can maybe try and get to above 17% this year, that'd be absolutely brilliant. And how do we do that? We can ask our friends, vote ourselves, make sure there's absolutely everyone that you know has always got an opinion on what's happening on campus and has their say. So yes, I think a couple of years ago, it was decided based on 8 votes. So the winner of one of the categories won by 8 votes, which is a really small margin. So it's one of those things, if you've got 8 friends who you can reach out to and go, hey, vote for this person, or hey, have a read of the manifestos and decide who to vote for, that could set the difference. So if we have any communication from Scott here, that would be quite good. I think we might still be reconnecting. We're a little bit unsure what's going on, but as always, I'm trying my best to power through. So, right, okay, give it another minute. He's stuck in the loading page. Okay. So he's come to save me from, well, save both of us from our absolutely rubbish small talk right here. So yes, I'm not too sure what else to say. I'm running out of stuff. I'm running out of time, really. I've been going for what, 2 minutes now? Oh, need to keep going then. Oh no. I keep getting messages in the chat. Honestly, I'm not sure what else I can speak about. Oh, what about I go through the order of what else we've got next? Because following this, we've got quite an important part. And I'm sure it's the bit you're all waiting to see, which is your student president. We've got our 2 candidates, Sanjit and Sanabar, who are ready to go. Not head to head, have a friendly answer to all the questions that we're going to propose them today. Okay, right. So now that we can't see Scott, I might have to keep going with candidate question time. So we might be able to come back to him later on if we have an opportunity to. So, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to our 4th question of today. And it will just be you answering it this time. Same rules as before, 1.5 minutes. And we're going to have to see if Scott can get back to us during that time. So our 4th question is as follows. What is your single biggest goal around improving sustainability and how do you plan to achieve it? So I'll say that one more time. What's your single biggest goal around improving sustainability and how do you plan to achieve it? So take the floor whenever you're ready.
I guess as a single biggest goal, it's sort of like an amalgamation of many smaller goals. But I do plan to work very closely with Chris, who works in the university as an environmental sustainability manager. When I was in the Eco Society, I worked very close with him already, so I know him very well, and I want to continue to work very closely with him. To deal with developing the climate action plan, the net zero plan, and also to try and push for getting the composter working back on campus, and loads of other stuff like that. I'm personally trying to push things like getting more vegan options and plastic-free options in all the food outlets, and also get better allergen information on all the menus.
Thank you very much. So unfortunately, we still don't have Scott here with us, but what I do recommend is you check out his manifesto on the Heriot-WattUnion page. So even though you're not able to hear his answer to his question, it might be lodged in there somewhere. So what we're going to do just now is move on to our fifth and the final question for your vice presidents here. So question 5 goes as follows. We know that students are facing a housing crisis in Edinburgh. How would you tackle this if elected? So quite a short question, but quite complicated at the same time. So we know that students are facing a housing crisis in Edinburgh. How will you tackle this if elected? So, Will, I'll come to you.
So for this, yes, I am aware that it is a very big problem, and I haven't addressed it in my manifesto. But it is in the back of my mind, and I do plan to have that as one of my focuses while in the role, and try and work with the union, and also have plenty of meetings with the university to try and basically help the university help students, because I think that's one of the biggest problems, is that the university may not know the extent of the crisis. So trying to hear what the students need and want, and then lobbying the university to try to make those changes and help students as best they can.
Thank you very much. So that's all for questions today. Unfortunately, again, Scott's still not here to answer, but I'm sure that's just down to technical difficulties. I know he definitely wants to be here, and you can check out his manifesto again on the Heriot-WattUnion page if you need to read into anything. So it's our final chance. Well, it's your final chance to tell students why they should vote for you now. It's sort of like the closing statement. So, Will, you'll have 30 seconds to give a closing statement as to why the people at home, or the lovely people watching, should vote for you as vice president. So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Thanks. So a couple of things that one of my biggest focuses are gardening. So I'm currently managing, or helping to manage, the gardening allotments on campus. So I want to continue doing that. So loads of students have a place to grow plants and fruit and vegetables to have in the summer. Another one is that for society leaders especially, one of the big problems is Freshers Week. So I plan to try and make it easier for society leaders on that day. So check out my manifesto, and yeah, get voting.
Thank you very much. So wonderful. It's been good to hear from both of them, even if we only got to hear from Scott a little bit. So I might have to stall a little bit just to see if Scott can join at any point, or we can come to him even after the student president vote. But what we'll do just now is I'll move straight onto the student president. So I hope you're all making notes at home as all the candidates pass by, what you like, what you don't like, who you might vote for, who you might not vote for, or whether you like them both, and you can use your rank choice to select them as number 1 or number 2. Again, I'll reiterate that it's really important to check out your candidate manifestos and to see what they're looking for, and whether you can see more about their ideas if they're elected into the positions. And you can do this at hwunion.com/vote. I think I've got the message that we're still waiting on one of the candidates through, so I would say that link again, just to extend the time a little bit. So it's hwunion.com/vote, and it'd be a really good time to check it out, just to see what everybody's thinking, and if your ideals align with theirs, whether you think they're the person you want to vote for. So I hope you have a good look onto the webpage for their manifestos. So finally, we have our student president. So this is the last almost position that we are going to have a candidate's question time for today, and it's the big one. So the student president is, as you'd expect, the figurehead of the union. They'll work to improve the student experience here at Heriot-Watt and make sure students are at the heart of absolutely everything the university does. Oh, thanks, Emily. I've just seen a nice message pop up. Thank you very much. So they're the person the university turns to most, and they're expecting to respond really quickly when asked challenging questions. Perfect. Right. So we're ready to go. So what we're going to do now is going to rewind to your vice president community. So Scott isn't running for president, he's running for vice president community. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the questions he missed, which are questions 4 and question 5, and then have a closing statement. So Scott, your question 4 is as follows. What is your single biggest goal around improving sustainability, and how do you plan to achieve it? So repeat that one more time. What is your single biggest goal around improving sustainability, and how do you plan to achieve it? And you can take the floor whenever you're ready.
So again, this is in my manifesto. I touched upon it in my brief remarks. It feels like an age ago since I got back in. But my single goal is broadening the union's sustainability strategy. I think the union could fall into the trap of focusing on election to election, which are more individual greener policies. I think the union needs to have a longer term, more committed approach to getting as close to net zero as possible. On top of that, I intend to launch a guest lecture series led by industry experts. So this is more focused on individuals and the way that they can make small changes. So a guest lecture series for students to go along to, focusing on individual changes as well as the broader, longer term, more committed approach to net zero for the union.
Thank you very much. So I think I've just been reminded that I don't think you managed to answer question 3 as well because of the technical difficulties, of course. So I'll go back to that one just now before we move on to question 5. So question 3 goes as follows. What will you do as VPC to address discrimination faced by minority groups such as Black, Asian, minority and ethnic students, and students with protected characteristics such as disabled students? So we'll come to you in this question. We've got a minute and a half, same as always. I'll take the floor whenever you're ready.
Perfect. I'm quite conscious of sitting here and talking about the problems that BAME students face or disabled characteristic students face. And I can't commit to understanding all the problems that they face. What I can commit to is speaking to these students, having these consultations with them, discussing how I can best help them. I know Emily, our current president, has done loads of work on the Black Voices project, and I hope we can continue that. Another comment, it would be diversifying our counselling service, the wellbeing service in a whole. I think it's easy for people people like me. This is echoed in the wellbeing services we provide. We need to diversify that so they feel more comfortable talking about this. In terms of events, more community side of things, it would be again the funding that I talked about earlier. If we increase funding for societies, they can rebuild these communities that we lost due to COVID. So there are more events for them, more safe spaces for them, and then hopefully that will help with dealing with discrimination and addressing discrimination.
Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to our final question that we asked Will earlier. So it's question 5. We know that students are facing a housing crisis in Edinburgh. How will you tackle this if elected? So I'll repeat that one more time. We know that students are facing a housing crisis in Edinburgh. How will you tackle this if elected?
So yeah, again, another one of my main points in my manifesto, I talked about it briefly in the intro, is lobby the government with the help of NUS Scotland to change to a more student-tailored approach with the cost of living crisis coming up. Like I said, their current approach is to deal with that, is to have a council tax deduction. Us as students, we don't pay council tax, so we wouldn't benefit from that or receive any fiscal reprieve from that. As well as that, I would challenge the union's stance on advertising public purpose-built student accommodations. These are super expensive, often hall-like accommodation, and they don't have the same rights as normal renters, which is ridiculous. So challenge the advertisement of purpose-built student accommodation. I don't think that you should be doing that at all. We should be encouraging healthier, more better accommodations, environments for the students.
Thank you very much. So finally, we're going to give you a chance to round off everything, to give your 30-second closing speech. So you can start speaking whenever you're ready, and that'll be us.
Thanks for that. Again, in my opening remarks, I touched on what I would be committed to do if I was elected Vice President Community. Continuing this, I would, if elected, I would give my 100% commitment. You know, I've been a part of this union for 5 years in multiple roles. I've worked behind the bar, like I've said. I was also the national representative for the Heriot-WattSU Student Union in Scotland. I also founded my society in first year, so vote Scott #1 for Vice President Community.
Thank you very much. So that is all to hear from your Vice President community candidates. And as I said before, I do recommend you go across and check out their manifestos, because there has been a little bit of, I don't know how to phrase it, just a little bit of a twist and turn in the works here. So you might not have heard them, you might have missed a little bit here, a little bit there, or caught a little bit here, caught a little bit there. But you can catch everything in their manifestos, which you can get at hwunion.com/vote. So finally, we're going to move on to student president. And this is the big role. I've introduced it before, but I'll do it again because we've finally got one of our candidates here to answer our questions and the questions we've got for them. So the student president is the figurehead of the union. They're the person who works to improve the student experience here at Heriot-Watt and makes sure that students are at the heart of absolutely everything the university does. So they're the person that the university turns to most, and they're expected to respond really quickly when asked challenging questions, similar to what you'd expect from them here. So they're the main representative for postgraduate students and work with the student representatives in our Dubai and Malaysia campuses. They also deal with all the extra stuff that comes flying in as well. So we do have 2 candidates for student president this year. I think only Sanji is joining us tonight. So I think we should see them pop onto the right-hand side of the screen shortly. Here we go. I see Sanji is giving us a wave. So I think what we'll do is we'll kick this off as soon as we can. You'll have 1 minute to introduce yourself, similar to before, and I'll let you know when there's 10 seconds remaining. So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cameron. Hey guys, my name is Sanjay. I am a postgraduate actuarial science student, and I'm running for your student president for next year. To be honest, I've been at this university for almost 4 years, and I really, really don't want to leave. I'm getting sad knowing that it might come one day, but I do not want to leave at all. But jokes aside, this role really presents such a great opportunity for me to kind of bring change around for you guys, to be your voice, to be your support pillar, to be the things that you want to see at university. I want to do that for you. I want to stand for you guys, and I think that's why I'm running for this role. So
thank you very much. So we'll move on to our questions today. We've got a lot of quite good ones. I had a flick through them earlier. So our first question of this evening for your student president candidate, we have, what other role or previous experience do you have that will make you a good choice for president? And I'll repeat that one more time. What other role or previous experience do you have that will make you a good choice for president? A bit like a job interview, but we'll go straight over to you, Sanji.
Right, no worries. Thanks very much, Cameron. So in my 4th year of uni, I was student MP. It was unfortunately at a time that we were facing the pandemic, but I think that's what strengthened the role a lot more. It meant that I had to do much more than what was expected of me. I got the chance to work with the then Vice President of Education, Alex. I got really introduced to a lot of the things that he was doing as well, and really got immersed into the problems that students were facing as well, and also got to talk to a lot of people about the different problems that they have. I also got a teensy bit of chance to work with Emily, who is absolutely amazing. She's our current student president right now, and she's done an absolutely amazing job over the 2 years. And it's been an absolute honor to work with both of them. But I think that's what really gave me the kind of idea to apply for this, is that I might be perfect for this role. The reason being, I've been here, I've been in this situation before, and I know what it means, and I know what it is to be in that situation. I want to make it that much more better for you guys.
Thank you very much. So we have our second question ready to go, and it goes as follows. What would you do as president to improve the postgraduate experience at Heriot-Watt? So a postgraduate centered question here. And what would you do as president to improve the postgraduate experience at Heriot-Watt? So take the floor whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thanks again, Cameron. That question is ironic right now, considering I'm a postgraduate student myself. But I think the biggest thing that we can do for our postgraduate students right now is promote a really good kind of working culture within both PGT and PGR experiences. PGR a lot more because I think they have more issues that they are facing, and they need people that they can immediately turn to in terms of the things that we can do. For postgraduate research students, I want to be able to improve the pay that they're also getting, because they are doing a lot of work that is centered around with the university. And so I think the biggest that I said was promoting good working culture between postgraduate top and postgraduate research students. And if I could achieve that for this year, then that would be an amazing milestone. And I hope to really, really achieve that with your help as well.
Thank you very much. So our third question, we're getting through these now. So it's, what is your position on the university and college union staff strikes? So I'll repeat that again. What is your position on the university and college union staff strikes? So you can take some time to collect your thoughts, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
No problem. Thanks again, Cameron. My personal opinion, I think, is that these strikes are pretty important for the staff here at university. If I remember correctly, it was in one of the VP well-being questions. So, like they said, the staff at this university are the most important people, because they are the people who kind of help us grow as students and help us gain the skills that we need to face the graduate world when we come out of university. And if they are not rewarded properly, and if they are facing different issues that we can't help as students, then that's something that we really, really need to face. And my position right now would be, I would 100% support whatever's going on with the strike.
Thank you very much. So our fourth question goes as follows. How will you lead and work with the three vice presidents so students see the differences you talk about in your manifesto? So I'll repeat that one more time. How will you lead and work with three vice presidents so students can see the differences you talk about in your manifesto? So same as before, you can have some time to collect your thoughts, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
No problem. Thanks again, Cameron. So I think the first step that we need to get here, if I get elected, would be to sit down and have a chat with all three of the vice presidents, whoever they are, regarding the different issues that all the students are facing right now. And once we've got that whole thing up, it's not that each vice president needs to take care of a particular issue by themselves. It's that we need to address this issue. We need to address this issue together. And so doing it together more helps us also build transparency to our students. It means that all the students can approach each one of us regarding their own problems, and we would be able to immediately answer or give solutions on those problems as well. So that's pretty much the first step that I want to take in leading our leading the way we build our experience. Sorry, that was a brain fog again.
No, it's perfectly fine. So we're going to move on to our fifth question, and it goes as follows. How would you ensure student voices are heard, listened to, and acted on by the university? So I'll repeat that one more time. How would you ensure student voices are heard, listened to, and acted upon by the university?
Thank you again, Cameron. So as the role entails, the student president is the voice for the students. So when I said that I want to be a voice for you guys, I mean that 100%. And that means that I will put in all my efforts to come and speak to you guys, to be open about anything that's the issues that you're facing. And however loud you guys are, I'm going to be just as loud to the university, so that they know that we are here to make our experiences a lot better, and that they would need to listen to them, that they would need to listen to us. So the first step that I want to take is get to know everybody, get to speak to everybody else regarding the different problems, and then kind of lobby the university as to how we can face these problems together as a university, not as a student union and as a university separately, but together as a university, so that we can, build our community better.
Thank you very much. So typically in this segment, we only have 5 questions, but we've got a little bit of a curveball today. And what we're going to have is we've got a bonus question for your student president tonight. It is the most important role, so we thought, why not throw in a little bit of an added question? And our question 6 is as follows. How you make sure students know what you're doing. It's a simple question, but that doesn't take away from its importance. It's how will you make sure students know what you're doing?
Thank you again, Cameron. And did not expect the curveball, but yeah, I'm going to be ready for it. So that was one of the points that was listed in my manifesto, was ensure that the union has greater transparency towards the students. Like I said, when I said in my previous thing, again, I want to be your voice. I mean that 100%, and I'm going to be as open. I'm going to be as open a person as possible, so that anybody from any year, from any part of the university, be it postgraduate, be if you're first year, or it doesn't matter. If you want to come and talk to me, you're going to be able to come and talk to me, and we will also try on our side to let you know the things that we've undertaken, and the issues that we've been able to address, and the solutions that we've been able to come up with as soon as possible, as soon as we can. So
thank you very much. So what we're going to have now is our 30-second summary from Sanjit as to why you should vote for him. So Sanjit, I think you might be you might be looking for a sip of water right now. You've been speaking quite a bit, but it's the last 30 seconds. This is where you really hammer it home. You've got 30 seconds to sum up why the wonderful people at home should vote for you.
No worries. Thanks again, Cameron. So when I said that I didn't want to leave, again, I meant that 100%. I've loved this university so much from start to almost finish. I've met some amazing people. I've got the chance to work with, again, amazing people as well. And this role that presents an opportunity for me to bring change to you, to be your voice and to be your pillar. I promise you that I will do the best that I can to represent you and make your university experience as flawless as possible. So vote Sanjit for president.
Thank you very much. So that is brilliant stuff. And with that, we come to the end of our candidate question time. What we've done is we've heard from absolutely everybody who is currently up to candidate question time today, and the people who are running for their key full-time positions within the university. So it's great to see them, and thank you to everybody who's come along tonight, both the candidates and the people at home, for intently listening to them. So it's just a little bit of a reminder that the voting is open now, and you can head over to hwunion.com/vote to have your say. So it's a good point to vote right now, because you've just heard all the ideas from your candidates. You've sort of fresh in your mind. You can have a thought about who you want to vote for. So what you'll be asked to do on the voting page is you'll be asked to rank the candidates in order of preference, which means if your favorite candidate doesn't get enough votes, then your vote's moved over to your second favorite candidate, and so on. So I really recommend what you do first is you check out the candidates' manifestos, get a fuller picture of what they would do if they're elected. And then following that, the voting is open until 3 p.m. on Friday the 11th. And then we'll announce the results on Friday evening in zeros at the Student Union and online through our socials. So if you want to come along, that's you're more than welcome. So please also remember that there's more than just these vice president and president positions available. What we have is you can vote for your members of parliament, the school member of parliament positions. And if you're a member of the sports union, then you can vote for your sports union president, vice president, and executives as well. The most important thing, and I think it's the thing I really want to hammer home, is that you getting your say. Well, this is your chance to get your say on who will be representing you for the next academic year. You get your say on what you expect from your candidates, who you want to represent you, and who you think will do the best job. So use the link, hwunion.com/vote, to check out the candidates and use your voice within the university. And what you can do just now is you can scan the QR code that will appear on screen in just a minute. I'd like to thank everybody for watching, absolutely everybody. If you've been popped in, if you've left a comment, if you left a like, or even if you've just thought about voting, and I recommend you tell your friends, you vote yourself. And yeah, with that said, thank you very much for attending. It's been brilliant, and I'll see you soon. Well, on Friday to announce the results. Thank you all.